Hello everybody, James here and it's story time with Dutch Mantell, episode 84, and there is a hat hovering at the camera in Tampa, Florida. What does that hat say, Dutch?
It says the University of Dutch, fully accredited and no student loans accepted. Are required, by the way.
So it's a community college?
Well, it's a trade school. That's what it is. Plus, when you graduate, you will receive a bona fide, genuine University of Dutch diploma, which you can purchase if you just write to me at Dirty Dutch Mantell with 2 L's at gmail.com. I'll get your name, get it on there. And it even has 2 signatures on it. One is by Dirty Dutch Mantell, that's me. And the other one is the provost of the college, is Mr. Zebekiah Colter. Good friend of mine. I haven't seen him in a while. And he does a good job. But you get 2 signatures on it, and it comes ready to mount right on your wall. And I've said this before, if somebody comes in, they're talking wrestling, they say, hey, where did you get your diploma from? You said, and you just point to it and say, I got it from the University of Dutch. Where's yours? See, and they're immediately speechless because they don't have one. So you kind of beat them to the punch. All right, so let's start this. Let me knock every SOB that I know in a kind way, in kindest way possible.
Hey, before we do, though, we've got more plugs because I didn't tell you this beforehand. We finally have a pro wrestling tees shop.
We do.
The annoying thing is that the 2... Right, we've got our original 2 t-shirts, or yours really, Respect the Stash and You People Mean Nothing to Me. They are up there now, and look, how could you not respect that mustache? That is the kind of mustache that you see and you stand up and put your hand across your heart and say, we the people.
Yes.
A mustache that commands respect and demands it. But we've got some more designs coming up on Pro Wrestling Tees as well soon. We'll have the link, hopefully, in the description because I can't remember it off the top of it. It's probably /Dirty Dutch Mantell.
You know where I got my idea about the mustache? You've seen Ox Baker?
Yes.
That mustache he had?
Hmm?
And he used to do this. And he'd grab it like this. And when I was really, really green, this is when I first started in business, Ox Baker, people used to run from him. And he was left-handed too when he said, and he'd grab his hand like this, like he's going to punch him. Oh my God. And he was a scary guy, but he was, if you got him away from wrestling, he was like a prince. He would go into Waffle houses are very prevalent down south. So of course we didn't have a lot of money. So on the long trips, we'd eat at Waffle House, and he'd go in there, and the staff would love him. He would get up and actually help them. He would walk behind the counter, and he would get the coffee pot and go up and fill everybody's coffee up. And he'd stay like 2 or 3 minutes, and it was a big laugh. And then he'd sit down. But they loved when Ox come in because he's very, very personable, unless he's playing the role of Ox. But other than that, he was a great guy. He really was.
Is he one of those guys who just, because I'm sure a lot of the bad guys back in the day would take that character and be that 24/7. Mm-hmm. But was Ox just one of those guys that was just, that's for TV, this is me now?
Yeah, he didn't care. He didn't.
I quite like that.
But one who did, and I've said this before, was Randy Savage. He was Randy Savage 24/7 from the time he got up to the time he went back to sleep. He was a macho man. And he never dropped it. I think he developed that about 3 years in. You know what he was first?
He was like the Spider or something, wasn't he?
Not Spider-Man. I think he was the Spider. Because he was really, really thin. He only weighed like, when he started, maybe 160, 170. And even when he got up to his working weight, he still didn't slow down. He was still working like, a machine. And I used to work with him, and I was saying, damn, he beating the living crap out of me. And I said, man, maybe. And when he was beating me up, the people were just sitting there watching it. I said, and this is how you learn to work. I said, maybe I should fire back here. Maybe I should show the people that I'm still alive. And then I throw a few punches, here they'd come. And that taught me, you got to do what the people, what they want you to do and what they respond to. And I've said this a lot of times too. You got to read the temperature in the room, and the temperature in the room said, "God damn, come back, do something. He's beating the living crap out of you." So, but see, Savage never told me to come back. I just came back because he was too busy beating me up. But anyway, he used to knock me out at least once a match, but not with a punch, with the elbow. He'd get on that top rope and you get up there and then he'd come off. And the impact when he landed here, that wasn't bad. What was bad is it snapped my neck, my head back on the mat. And he would knock me out about 2 minutes. Finally, after about a week of that, I said, hey, man, you have to stop dropping that elbow. Why, man? I said, you're knocking my ass out. No, man, I'm not doing that. I said, well, yeah, I think you are doing that because I'm the one taking it. And I guess I could have braced a little more, but he was really, when he would hit you, when you drop an elbow, he'd drop a damn elbow. I mean, there was no finesse to it. He just drop it. You know who else dropped a big elbow on you?
No.
That fat ass Abdullah. But Abdullah didn't drop an elbow on you. You know what he dropped on you?
Everything.
It's like almost all those lats on the side. You had to be ready to move out of the way. So anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Oh, no. I want to stick on that because you mentioned Savage and he was the Spider at first. What was the Spider character all about? Was it just like a name for a masked wrestler, or did he do spidery
No, he
things?
did Spider-Man stuff. He'd get on the top rope and, crouch down like the spider would. I mean, I wasn't even really familiar with the cartoon character when he brought it out. And he had this and he'd look, I don't know, whatever he did. And I noticed that he was over with the kids, so it's a cartoon for kids. So
like the mask was actually, or the outfit was like a rip-off of Spider-Man, or would he?
Yes, exactly.
Really?
Had the webs and run down and all through if I remember correctly, that's what he had. But now he only did the Spider for like one season. I say season. Wrestling doesn't really have seasons. We should have seasons, really. But because he had to finish that up, and he would just do it through the winter months, because come March, he had to go and report back to his minor league team, which I think was in Florida, Sarasota, or somewhere. I don't know where he played in Florida, but he'd have to report to spring training. And I think, wasn't he a pitcher?
I believe so. I'm
shortstop.
I'm just trying to Cincinnati Reds. I've got a baseball card for him.
The Cincinnati Reds. That was his parent club.
Right.
But whoever he played for in Florida or in minor league ball, they're just a subsidiary of the Reds. And he was a pretty good hitter. He hit around 300, not quite that much, about 270, which is pretty good, I thought. And he was left-handed, and he learned to throw with his right hand.
Here we go. I think I've got it. The Gulf Coast Cardinals.
And where were they?
Gulf Coast? Don't know.
Yeah, but the Gulf Coast is more up around Pensacola and Panama City and up through there than it is down in Florida.
Okay. Gulf Coast Cardinals, I'm not even sure. the team was known as, I've got Wikipedia here, they are based in affiliate of the St. Louis Cardinals in the Florida Complex League minor league. Where are they based? Oh, it plays its home games in Jupiter, Florida.
Oh, Jupiter. Yeah, that's in Florida.
There you go. Man,
but
you
anyway,
really tested
that
me in
was
my very basic knowledge of Florida geography there.
And he told me some baseball stories. I can't quite remember them right off the top of my head, but very interesting to travel with. I will say that. Hey, I'm noticing my books back there.
Oh, well, we haven't even talked about the books, have we yet? You can get signed books from Dirty Dutch Mantell if you are interested in such things as signed memorabilia or books or certificates or even the hats that we'll talk about probably another time. You go to Dirty Dutch Mantell with 2 L's at gmail.com. Make your request there. And you were telling me just off air that a lot of people are interested in the certificates.
Oh, those diplomas. Yes, they are. And, you know, I should have this readily available, but I don't. But it's a beautiful, beautiful diploma, if I do say so myself, because I actually designed the entire diploma. Not that I'm a designer, but I just got to looking at it and I said, well, hell, I can do that. So I got my trusty Adobe out and started designing. You know, it's amazing what you can do if you just think you can do it and just keep at it. And every mistake you make, well, you've learned something. You're not going to get it right the first time. So I just kept at it and kept at it and kept at it. And it features the person's name, their legal name that they would like to see on a diploma, and I'll just send it right to them. So write me and ask about it if you're interested.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful gift. So if you know a wrestling fan, he knows me, tell him about it or just give it to him. And he will be, what's the word I'm looking for? Stunned, astonished, flabbergasted. That's that word. I'm using it again. He won't know what to say, but he will actually owe you something. So the next time you have a special occasion, now he's required to get you something wrestling related. So
I like special occasions, so birthday, Christmas, coming out party,
yes.
bris. It could be anything. It is a diploma for all occasions. Dirty Dutch Mantell at 2 L's at gmail.com. Are you ready to talk some news, Dutch?
Let's talk some news because I am full of it today.
I am interested in your thoughts on many, many things that have happened. And the first one is I specifically...
1 second.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Someone's talking to Dutch. 1 second. I'm pausing. Okay, well, we had a very quick break there. I thought I'd tee up the first of our news items, and this is Grayson Waller laying the verbal smackdown on a morning, I'm looking at this, sunrise. Excuse me, I'm trying not to sort of throw up at the same time I was saying that. Excuse me. Anyway, Grayson Waller doesn't like the questions he's getting. You've seen this already, Dutch. I've not, so here we go.
One of your signature finishing moves.
Can I give you one?
Yeah, can you, like, not me.
I'll just be over here.
But can you show us one of your moves?
No, I think it
Like
actually just showed on the screen there. If I do that, it's not going to be a good day for
maybe someone
anybody.
in, like our floor manager, maybe he seems
Well,
available.
actually, our floor manager's leaving this week.
Yeah.
And he's sort of, I don't know if...
That's not for me. You want to go ahead and take this one?
Look, you...
Uh-oh.
I don't think you understand. Like, if I come over there right now, we're going to have the police here because I'm not going to give you some fake punch. Like, I'm going to punch you straight in the jaw. The disrespect that you have even talking to me. No, you want to talk to me like this ain't real?
What did the floor manager even say?
Don't act all tough. Like, get in the middle of this.
What did the floor manager say?
I don't know.
Get him out of there. You get out of there. You get out. I'm so sorry. No, don't know.
Now, I don't know if that just happened or...
Are you kidding me?
I'm not disrespecting you.
You're all right, mate. No, we love you. Also, no, yeah.
Hey, you take that trash talk and you
He
get
put
out of
him
here.
in a compromising position. He didn't like it.
You take that trash talk and you get
I
out.
don't blame
I
him.
have these guests disrespected like that, Mitch. You get out.
What did the floor manager say? I couldn't pick it out at all. And I don't know why John Cena's music's playing over it, but
Oh, I don't know. I could, both of them were talking, so I don't know
Here we go.
what he said.
I've turned it up.
In the jaw. The disrespect that you.
Uh-oh.
I don't think you understand. Like, if I come over there right now, we're going to have the police here because I'm not going to give you some fake punch. Like, I'm going to punch you straight in the jaw. The disrespect that you have even.
Not actually sure he actually said anything at all. What do you think of all that?
Well, that was a clip from a morning talk show in New Zealand, where is
Australia.
that? Oh, it was Australia. That's where Grayson Waller is from.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently this morning crew weren't well prepared for the wrestlers. And I think they did kind of disrespect it in that. And I don't blame Grayson Waller. I think if he'd got up and the guy got close to him, I think he would have punched him, which is a bad idea, I might add. So, and I was noticing the way that LA Knight and Waller were sitting next to each other. They weren't just like this. They were like parted more. And I've studied body posture. I think they were uncomfortable being on the show together and sitting next to each other. I don't know why, but I don't think apparently they talked this over with the two guys, the Waller and LA Knight, because I don't think they expected that guy to come up. He was like a stagehand or a cameraman or something, and they just wanted to make the segment just a little bit newsworthy. And I bet that got a lot of play. Now, they could have worked it out. I wish Waller had just laid him out and right there, bam. And when they go to a break, the guy just laid out like that. But anyway, but that's what you got to put up. You do these early morning talk shows like that, and I've done them. They want you there at like 6 o'clock in the morning. Oh, it's some ungodly time. Who gets up at 6 o'clock in the morning? I mean, unless you have just a day job. Wrestlers don't get up at 6. They get up about 11. Then go to work out, then they leave for their event or wherever they're going about 3, 4 in the afternoon. And basically, wrestlers work second shift always, and never work a first shift. But they're traveling. I used to travel sometimes, and back in the what they call the older days, hell, I'd get in at 5 o'clock in the morning sometimes. It's a very, very taxing lifestyle. And people wonder, say, why are you moving so slow? I said, well, because I wore myself out when I was young. Everybody did. But anyway, but I kind of like that segment, and it probably got a lot of airplay in New Zealand. When is their event in New Zealand coming up? Is that where their next pay-per-view's from? Or, I mean, in Australia?
Australia.
In Australia?
Yeah, I think it's in February. They're having a big super show. Perth, yeah.
In Perth. You ever been to Perth?
Never been to Australia. Never been to Oceania or Australasia. I've been to 5 continents, and that's the one and Antarctica. They're the ones I've not been to.
You know, some people consider Australia a continent on its own. It should be, shouldn't it?
It basically is. Australasia is Australia, New Zealand, and a bunch of islands for the most part.
Mm-hmm. I've heard a lot about Australia from guys that used to go down there. They used to have a territory there.
World Championship Wrestling, in fact, the original WCW.
And guys that went loved it, because what they would do, they were the first ones to fly across country. What's on the eastern side of the country?
Of Australia?
Perth's on the western side.
Let me get a map out. I'm getting the map out.
And they would fly back and forth between those cities.
On the east coast is Sydney and Brisbane, south coast Melbourne, Adelaide, and on the west coast Perth.
It's Perth, so I was right. Yeah, they were and that was by an old time promoter named Jim Barnett, which I don't know why they didn't make him a character, because he was. If you met Jim Barnett, you would not forget him, because he was flashy, and he would say, "My boy." He would say that a lot, and a very likable guy. I don't know why he was never a character on TV, but he was a millionaire when he was a kid. This is just some back because his family was worth a lot of money. And he worked for some promoter in the Midwest, and he wanted to own a wrestling company. And he finally, I don't know how this happened, he finally got in contact with the people who owned Australia, and they sold it to him. So he went down there and started promoting, and the guys, and he must have paid really, really well because guys were knocking each other out to get down there. So, and I worked for him, nice guy, and he paid well too. Very, I think he was probably one of the better of the promoters for paying guys off. So we didn't have contracts. You worked for what was there. And if you had a full house, you made some money. If you didn't, you didn't make any money either. So that's my knowledge of Australia.
There are a lot of because like we, a load of daytime shows when they do UK tours over here, and there's so many. There was like shows like The Big Breakfast where they'd have. I remember one where Macho Man Randy Savage, in his full regalia, was being interviewed by a drag queen called Lily Allen, very famous over here. The Rock had to wear an Australian hat in like 8 o'clock in the morning, and he was really unhappy. But he was sat next to the Big Show. He was having the time of his life. I remember that as a kid really, really well. Do you know who the best one was? Santino Marella. Because I remember he was on Sunday Brunch, whatever it is, with Tim Lovejoy. And he had them rolling laughing the entire interview. He was great at it. And then probably the worst at it, as we all know, was Vader. You must have seen that footage where it's like in Kuwait or something.
Yeah, he wanted to punch the guy, which I'm glad he didn't, because in those countries like Kuwait, they don't play around. I mean, they'll just throw you in jail right away.
He was banged up for over a week, I think.
Who was?
Vader. They arrested him. Or they at least sequestered him into his hotel for like the better part of 2 weeks while they figured out what to do with him. Because
why was he beat up?
Well, no, the guy, I can't remember what the host said, but Vader got up, he leaned over the Undertaker, got up, snatched him, and then I think he ended up being sequestered into his hotel for about 2 weeks while they figured out whether they were going to put him in prison or for international relations let him go, and they eventually let him go.
And that's because of
something.
There's some money changed hands there.
I think so.
But so I'm thinking about Vader. Vader was he had a quick temper anyway. I mean, if he liked you, he's fine. But I've seen him go off on some people. He had a bad temper. And I'm thinking sometimes, that could, in the wrong situation, it could get you shot, especially in the U.S. But he never got shot, so he never got in that wrong situation. But guys like that, with that short temper, it usually works against them. See, I've never had a short temper. So I always try to...
You're a mediator at heart, aren't you?
I am. And a chicken shit. So I said, "Oh man, calm down. We don't need all this, whatever." I'm a de-escalator. That's what I am. If somebody gets hot at me, I say, "Come on, line up." So, all right, continue.
Who have you wound up the most? And do you remember just winding someone up and they were just really easy to just get to, and they didn't realize you were joking?
Well, they realized I was joking, but I would just keep it up and keep it up and keep it up. Actually, Barry Horowitz. I would wind him up, and he'd want to not kill me, but it would bother him. And there's probably a few more, but most of them realized what I was doing after a while. He'd got a little pop out of the dressing room, and the guy would chuckle a bit after he found out what was going on. But when you got those high-strung guys, there was a few of them like announcers or referees, you could tell they were kind of nervous anyway. And you could walk up, bam, scare them, and they would jump. And I mean, it was it wasn't anything that would hurt them, but they'd always have to be on their guard. So, and that was me. But I would always laugh, and it's a joke, it's a joke, it's a joke. Let it go, let it go. Because if they'd gotten really mad, I'd just have to take them down, put the figure four on them, stretch them, beat them up.
I interviewed Rob Van Dam last night, in fact. That'll be coming up in a week or two. And I actually asked him who were the most high-strung guys that you know of, and I think he said Chris Benoit and a couple of other people. And then he said Billy Gunn. And he said, every single time I see Billy Gunn at a convention, he's always in his own world, just looking really pissed off. Like that. And then I'll go, and then Rob would say, instead of saying goodbye, he'd say, I hope things get better for you, Billy. And then Billy go, hey, and then he just goes straight back to looking really intense.
That's Billy's resting face. He looks like he wants to reach out and slap everybody. And we go, like, how you doing? All right. He'll answer you and shake your hand, but it's his demeanor. He's just pissed off, and you think, well, hell, is he mad at me? He just saw me, and now he acts like he wants to wring my neck. I don't know. Yeah. But in Chris Benoit's case, I met him years before he ever broke into American wrestling. I met him in Canada. We were up in the Hart territory. I think we were in Calgary, Edmonton, or somewhere. I may be wrong on that. But he was a little short thing. He looked like, and he had short arms. He just looked weird. And I met him, and he was in his own world. And I walked away, and I'm thinking, well, I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about him, but I'm thinking, because I'd heard about him before. I went, I think he's got a few issues, which it turned out he did have a few issues. And when he died, did they take his brain for CTE examination?
Yeah, they did. Yeah. They said an 80-year-old dementia patient it resembled.
From what? Getting hit in the head?
Oh, yeah.
By what? Chairs?
Do you know, that's a good question, because apart from the fact that Benoit was one of the few people who didn't mind taking a chair shot to the back of the head, I think a lot of CTE can be caused by, and this won't be a big revelation, just hard bumps, taking those snapback bumps, because that's got to jar your neck, and you've got to hit your head on the back of the canvas many times.
Hey, Randy Savage, when he was dropping those elbows on me, Peter kept that up, I'd have had it.
Yeah.
I probably have some of it anyway, because I have a problem, and people that listen to the podcast, they know I'll say something, and what's his name? What's his name? I can't remember I remember the face. I can't remember the name, but I don't know if that's just a product of my getting older, but I've always done that. But later on, when they went into that, everybody remembers, I guess, unless if you're 40 or so, you remember the hardcore era of wrestling. Screw that. I said, hell, that's why it's a work, guys. We're supposed to act like we're killing each other instead of actually doing it. See, I would watch some of that ECW stuff, and I went, those guys are effing nuts. Like Cactus Jack used to take those chair shots right on the head. And you remember, it's a famous scene from some, they put it in some kind of wrestling movie, I forgot, where the Rock is hitting Cactus Jack in the head, and he's handcuffed, and he's on his knees in front of his family. Mm-hmm. I don't know why they used that. The kids were going nuts, and the Rock was, he said, Rock was, Foley was telling him harder, harder, harder. I don't get that. So I'm with Mick Foley one time, and I like Mick, a good guy. And he told me sometimes on his way home, and I don't know if this had gotten better, but he told me one time, he said he gets lost on his way back to his house. He'll take a wrong turn. And he'll forget where he lives. Is that possible?
Yeah, I definitely think so. One of my family members, he told me many years ago that he couldn't remember where he lived, and he ended up driving around in a circle, like about a mile radius, again and again and again. But in his case, he was really stoned, and he just it's not CTE. It's a different story. But yeah, he just said that this was back in the days when that wasn't quite as frowned upon. This was many, many years ago. But he just said he was so stoned, he just kept driving around. He said he recognised certain landmarks like a pub, and then he couldn't remember where he lived from there.
Crazy. But in Benoit's case, I think he had a hell of a lot of issues before he started getting hit in the head. He had to. I mean, that is one of the worst things. Of course, you read about people murdering other people. It's bad. But in Benoit's case, you know this guy. What the hell was he thinking? So who did he, and I don't mean to go back in this, who did he kill first? His son?
The wife.
Or his wife? The
No,
wife.
he killed Nancy first, and then he killed the son about 24 hours later.
And he stayed in that house with him.
Yeah, so
that's a horror movie. It really is.
yeah, I think he killed Nancy. Let's just call it day 1. He killed the son on day 2, and then he killed himself day 3. Something like that.
Damn, James, being so cheerful is what keeps you going.
Well, you asked.
Oh, okay.
I would have moved on. Let's move on.
Let's go.
We're going to move on. Right.
Hey, anybody, that was James's idea to spend time talking about that. So usually this is a cheerful podcast. We don't need to bring anybody down.
It's a very interesting case anyway, but we will move on to our second news item. The Young Bucks have been announced as Sting and Darby Allin's final opponents. What do you think of that? So it's not going to be a singles match with Sting. Obviously, we know that Sting has announced his retirement for March of this year, and now the Young Bucks are going to be his opponents along with Darby Allin.
I don't think it's a bad choice because the Bucks, what they're really good at is making their opponents look good. Even over their opponents, making them look good. So I don't think it's a bad choice because it's his last match. I don't know who else they would bring back.
Flair.
Please don't bring that. God, that's a nightmare. That's having a recurring bad dream, I think, to bring Flair back. Flair's last match was enough. So, but at least Sting has the foresight, or the Bucks do have the foresight to say, hey, we'll do your last match because they'll do what's necessary and it'll have a good ending. People will be happy. Everybody's jumping up and down, champagne all around. They're going to pop all the graffiti and it's going to fall into the ring. And, we'll see you guys and Sting's gone forever and then happy retirement and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think it's a bad choice, to tell you the truth.
Do you think he means it? Because everyone says they're retiring and then they come back for the most part. Do you think Sting is actually done?
I think he may be done in the ring. Because what it is now, you have all these little fan conventions. I mean, they're everywhere. And they're usually well attended. And you can go there and people can take pictures with you and, buy my books. They're always there. And, I'll sign autographs. You got so many of them, I think guys make more on them than they made actually appearing and wrestling on shows.
There's got to be like professional wrestlers who they've got gigs every single weekend that are just signings now. They seem to be everywhere.
Oh yeah. If I wanted to, I could stay busy every weekend. Since I'm a lazy fat bastard, I just stay home and especially during football season, I just watch football. Yeah, but I'm in Florida now, and they have a lot of them around, and I'm only interested in the ones that are kind of close, that they don't take you. I don't want to go to LA to do one. I don't want to go to the West Coast or even the middle of the country. I'll go up and down the East Coast if it's convenient and I don't have to really bust my butt to get there. But they have a lot of them, and I think you can, in some cases, like say Flair. I hate to bring him up. He gets paid a fortune to go, and of course they sell some of those. Or Hulk, they sell some of those signed autographs for like $100, maybe more. I mean, they're knocking it down.
Do you know how much these fees are? I mean, like for some of the really big names, I've heard fees ranging $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 for a weekend.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think I heard one time Stone Cold got this is 10 years ago. He got 20 grand. Now, I don't even think he does them anymore. But the price is outrageous. But it's what the market will bear, and they're not going to pay any more than they have to, because then all the money goes to them. So
we had this isn't the fan question episode, as you know, that's coming up on Tuesday, but a fan wrote in about the Young Bucks and this announcement called Rod Rose. He was rather unenthused about the idea of Sting's last match being with the Young Bucks, and he suggested Sting versus Edge, Adam Copeland, instead would be a better match, because one, it's a singles match, and he thinks that Edge would get a better match out of him. The only problem is that Adam Copeland is a babyface. So,
the deal is, if a guy's retiring, I'm sure that he has a partner, and Sting beating, say, the Young Bucks, he's leaving. I mean, them beating Sting's leaving. It leaves a sour taste in the people's mouth, and they want to see him win. They want him to see him top his career off and end it on a high note. And him beating the Young Bucks, that doesn't hurt them at all. It probably helps them. But I don't think if he wrestled Edge, who wins?
Well, it still has to be Sting, and I think that would actually hurt.
Yes,
Adam Copeland.
It would, because I think, I don't know who's booking this. Toni said that he's going to let Sting do it. And that's a good choice. And I'm sure the Young Bucks, they're part of the company anyway, the executive vice presidents. So they go out and they do what needs to be done to advance the company instead of advancing themselves. And if they get beat, who cares? That's why you have TV. The next week, the Young Bucks come back and just beat the hell out of somebody. And then, you forget it. And then that match, Sting's last match, it becomes, part of the history, and it'll be remembered, if somebody wants to remember, forever. But I think they did the right thing with that one.
And we're sticking on the Young Bucks here. They, on Dynamite yesterday, as we record this 2 days ago when this is released, did a sit-down interview with Renee Paquette. And It went about, 3.5, 4 minutes. And they're it's not their debut of their new look, but it's their first interview, and they're coming across as heels. You watched it. It was vague at points what they were talking about. We follow news every week, and I didn't know what they were hinting at times. But what do you think of the interview?
Well, they must have listened to me on some of my former podcasts when I said and critiqued AEW's backstage interviews. I said that looks like an independent show, an independent promotion shot it in a barn. But at least on this one with Renee and the Bucks, produced well, lit well, the sound was well. I mean, it was good. and they got a point across. Now, I think they're talking about what happened a year ago with CM Punk and all that stuff. And I think the people who know that know exactly what they're talking about. And they didn't bring it up. I think that was a legal issue. They didn't need to bring it up, but I think everybody knew what they were talking about. And I think the Young Bucks came across a lot better than they usually do, because they usually look like they're a couple of guys that riding little skateboards in front of your house or down the street. That's what they act like. But you can't get anybody to believe that they're serious contenders to beat anybody up. See, their whole match consists of about 12 super kicks. I mean, you can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. And finally, after you hit the guy's much, you say him, go down. Please go down. Take a bump. Do something.
You get sore thigh after all that.
But I think this was produced pretty well, I think. And I don't know who produced it. Maybe Renee did. But they got their point across and got up and left. So I don't think it was bad. I actually think it was a better look for their backstage productions, because Renee is very good. She's very, very good. And I thought it was good. And sometimes I don't put over AEW that much, but it was a good interview.
I did have a bit.
Of course, me and you would have made it better if we'd have
of course, yeah.
See,
am I Renee or am I one of the Bucks?
You be one of the Bucks.
That's
I'll be Renee.
Good.
I like to look. I want to cross my legs.
Yeah,
is what I want.
Short skirt. I can imagine.
Yeah.
I had a bit of a different takeaway from this, and the Bucks, if you listen closely, they make mention of, and this came across as very WCW, is that when we started AEW, it was all sunshine and rainbows, we had a vision.
Yes.
And then they basically say, in more recent times, AEW has lost their way. And this is what WCW used to do from 1999 when it started going down the pan, is even on commentary, they used to say, we need to get WCW back on top. We need to improve WCW. It's like, why would you say that on screen? Because now you're giving the sort of viewer, the listener, person who's picking up on this kind of thing, the idea that, hey, maybe AEW isn't as good as it used to be. Or, yes, it has changed. Or, it's one of those things that jarred me when I heard it.
Well, see, one of the things AEW was original. Well, not original, because there's nothing original about wrestling hardly anymore. Well, they are a few things. Toni Storm's one of them, and we'll talk about her a little bit later. But I think what they were announcing is we're no longer in the market for the talent from WWE. We're not going to pay out the big money. I think Toni has finally realized that signing Edge didn't have any concrete effect on the ratings or the attendance, really. They know him, but I think just bringing over guys for the sake of bringing them over, yeah, you got them. Okay, now what you going to do with them? But I think that was their way of announcing we're no longer in the market for that. We're going to do our own stuff. And I'd like that AEW do their own stuff, but yet at the same time, they take these guys who have a ton of talent, but yet at the same time, they don't teach them the main thing of how to draw money, and that's character. That's how to do an interview, how to walk, how to do this. It's the little things that you see the veterans do and you don't notice it, but you do notice it. But you take some of those guys, they sound like they're like the third month in wrestling school. They go to, and now you got to start somewhere. But I remember, who told me this? I remember, who was one of the New Days? What was his name?
Xavier Woods, Big E.
Xavier Woods. He was in I think he was in before NXT. They had like at an Atlanta training camp. No, I think he may have been talking about NXT. They have a room there where you can go in and just do interviews on your own and then look at it back. And he said he spent more time in that room than he did in the ring, which was smart, actually, because he was developing a character that people can relate to. See, wrestlers are no more than physical comedians. You know, they try to do, see, a comedian tries to tell a joke that lands. You know, he gets a pop out of the crowd. Well, wrestlers try to do a move that lands. People go, I remember I used to, and I'm gonna do a little Barry Horowitz now. I'm gonna pat myself on the back. I used to do the short clothesline because nobody had seen it. And it was easy to take. And I'm thinking, why hasn't anybody come up with this before? So I would do it. And if the guy, of course, you couldn't do it to everybody, but you do it to a guy that could, I mean, really take a good bump, bam. And the people would go, because it was so quick and so sudden, it shocked them a little bit. And I remember doing it with Jake the Snake. And they said it was his first match. We was in Fort Worth, Texas. And I did it to Jake, and he took a hell of a bump, and the people responded. We got back to the dressing room, and I always thought, I said, that he beat me that night, but he didn't. I actually looked back at I can still show you the program. We did a Broadway. We went 15 minutes Broadway, and a Broadway meant that you went through. You went to the time limit draw. And Jake come up to me, hey, man. He said, I like that clothesline you gave me. I said, no, thanks. He says, that's a good one. He says, I'm stealing it. And he stole it right then and there. But at least he told me he took it. So now, then when Jake would get in there and do that short clothesline, then the people would see me do it. And the people say, hey, your clothesline is almost as good as Jake's. You took it from Jake, right? And too long a story to say, no, it's actually reversed. So I just said, yeah, I took it from Jake. But that's what the guys need to work on in AEW is their character, their personality to set themselves apart. We're all doing wrestling, but why can't a guy, and we're going to talk about this a little later, Samoa Joe don't do a lot of stuff, but he's over. And we'll talk about him in a minute. Mm-hmm. And his interviews are good, though. You believe his interviews because he talks sensibly. He talks in a fashion that makes sense. And when you think about it, you say, yeah, he does have a point. And he talks about it in such a way, he doesn't really downgrade the fan. Now, the Bucks were trying to downgrade the fans, not trying to do that. And it kind of somehow worked. I kind of got a little hot at them before they left. If I'd have been on set, I'd have hopped on there and started beating the crap out of them with a stick. That's what I'd have done.
Is that a heat-getting flat cap for you?
I love that.
Oh, yeah, so let's talk about the outfits then.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I love the shoes and those socks. Love that. You know, they got that look going on, which it gets heat. It gets heat, I think. I think it does. You say, look at that son of a... And when's the last time you saw somebody look like that?
do you know when it was? And I'll tell you, it's when Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes had a face-off, and Ric Flair was dressed exactly the same way with like this sort of colour thing, and he had a flat cap. And it's a really famous one where Dusty Rhodes goes, I'm just going to take that ugly hat off your head, and then he throws it away, and then they have a big fight. But yeah. I think it's an homage to Ric Flair 40 years earlier.
If you had to say an era in history, where would that hat be from? The 50s?
Oh, I don't know.
60s? It wasn't in the 70s and 80s. I know that.
No, it's with the little mustache as well. It's almost like a spiv kind of.
Oh, yeah. It's almost like 40s, an Earl Flynn.
Yeah.
The Earl Flynn.
Yeah, like a 30s kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
Thing is,
probably. Probably where it was from.
I was going to say, like, he's doing the open chest thing as well, but he has no chest hair. I think that should be illegal unless you have chest hair and a nice medallion.
I could do that.
Oh,
and
God,
I actually put my suit on backwards and just show my back hair. Okay, that wasn't funny, but go ahead. I know you laughed at it.
Let's move on. Reby Hardy has been burying her husband.
Is it Reba, or Reba?
I think it's Reby. It's got a Y on the end. It's not like Reba McEntire. So I think it's Reby Hardy, I think.
Reby Hardy, okay.
She's been burying her own husband, Matt Hardy, on social media. So we're going to watch the last video in a second, but bear with me. Your favourite wrestling couple, Matt and Reby, seem to be going through a tough time, highlighted by a series of ever more bizarre social media posts from Reby. And now Reby is seemingly hinting that Matt Hardy has been unfaithful to her, and also claimed that Matt is losing it. Here is a quote from one of the social media posts: is trying to talk to my husband, but his brain is fried from CTE. And then there are some other posts that reference men 1 week before doing the one thing they know is going to destroy their relationship. And then the oddest of all, she posts a video of the following. 1 second. Okay, here we go. This is like a 8-second TikTok reel. But we're doing the audio. It says, when Matt Hardy does me dirty for the last time. So, we'll watch it again. And she's putting on a t-shirt of Edge. How sharp is your edge? So, very much a reference to... Let me get rid of that. Very much a reference to Matt Hardy... Sorry, Edge... who cheated on who? Lita cheating on Matt with Edge. So there's some sort of infidelity hinting going on there as well. The only other thing is that Matt has come out and said that he doesn't have CTE. But he hasn't refuted anything else.
Well, in the era of social media, they're the ones that are kayfabing. Is this real or is this not real? It's pretty entertaining to think that this is true. But what it does, you know what it does do? It gets a lot of clicks. Gets a lot of interest. Some of those social media influencers, I mean, they make a ton of money. One guy held up a check and said, I made $30,000 last month on social media. $30,000, you know? But he gets his own little deal going, and he works on that. But I think that's what it's coming from. But Reba, or Rubba, or whatever her name is, she's a powder keg anyway. I mean, I don't know. I got into it with them, I don't know, 3 years ago or whatever it was, and went back and forth. And she was pregnant then, I think. And I told her, I said, oh, think of the baby. Oh, she hit the ceiling. I didn't even know what it was about now, tell you the truth. And I finally said, I don't want to get dragged into this. So I just cut it off. I mean, you can't win. So the best thing to do is say, okay, we'll call it a draw up early, where you do beat the crap out of me. But anyway, it's me. Of course, I'm a guy. I'm going to be judged as a bully and a misogynist, or whatever you call guys that do that. And I said, I just cut it off. But I don't even know what it was about now. I really don't. And by what's her husband's name, Matt? Mm-hmm. By Matt coming out and says, I don't know, I don't have CTE or something. I don't know. But
you nearly said who cares, didn't you?
I do. Really, who does care? I mean, if you saw somebody, a football player that you really like, and he's got CTE, what's the first thing you're going to say? Oh, that's a shame. And then go on about your day. It's not going to affect but they just want the clicks, and enough clicks adds up into money. So Then Matt Hardy said he's got enough money to live on the rest of his life anyway because it's all up under his bed in a suitcase, which could be true. I don't know. But I think you might need to put it in a little safer place and suitcase underneath your bed.
Yeah, what's his address? You know?
Yeah. What is your address? We're just going in and pull that suitcase out.
Do you know who else did that? I think was Benny Hill. I think he had all the like millions under his mattress.
Were you a Benny Hill fan?
It's shit. It was always shit. What's funny is that Benny Hill, back in like the 50s
now
and
explain who Benny Hill is. I think some people might not know who he is.
Oh, come on, yakety sax. And basically, for most people, Benny Hill is him slapping a bald man on the head and chasing a load of dolly birds around, well endowed, back in the 70s. And that was like sketch shows and stuff like that. But the fact is, Benny Hill was actually a very clever writer. And he was a good actor as well. But he's only remembered for the later stuff, which I think is a bit of a shame. Because he was a very talented writer, comedy writer.
The best British comedy that I've seen was Little Britain.
I know you love that.
Little Britain was I can watch it all day. It's stupid comedy, which is I like. And Catherine Tate. You like her?
No. I didn't really like Little Britain either.
You don't like, well, then you don't even like British humor?
Dude, of course I do. But I'll tell you what, if you ever get to watch a sitcom, it's Irish. But Father Ted, I was thinking about this the other day, you would love a sitcom called Father Ted because it's
Where did I find
non-stop
it?
hilarious. I don't know how you get it, but it's probably all up on YouTube for free.
Yeah, okay.
But Father Ted is the one I bet you
I'm going
like
as soon as we stop here today. You know where my first stop is?
You're going to forget about it and do something else.
I probably will. But just drop me an email, said, have you checked out Father Ted? I'm going to try that. I love that. I really. And they had another one. This is an American, though. It's called Kids in the Hall.
Another one.
You ever get that?
No.
You were so deprived.
Oh, we get all the shit ones. Big Bang Theory. I hate that show.
That's shit. That's the shit.
Awful. Do you know,
I know.
Do you know Seinfeld was never a big thing in this country because it never had a regular time slot ever in this country. It's like Frasier was huge, Cheers was huge, Friends, obviously. Stuff like that. But for whatever reason, Seinfeld was never big in this country because it was always shown at like midnight. Then it'd be 3 o'clock the next week in the morning.
You know what I got to say for that?
Little.
Who cares?
No, that's fair enough then.
Talk wrestling. Now we're talking about wrestling.
Is that the Reby Hardy answer? The who cares?
No,
response?
No, it's not.
Go
Continue.
On. We'll move on then. Jack Perry, former Jungle Boy. He's debuted for New Japan Pro Wrestling. You watched the video?
I did watch the video. Where is this match? California?
Yes, it was in California.
New Japan Pro Wrestling had an event in California that what's his name? Jungle Boy appeared in.
Yeah. Whoa, 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 whoa. That was his song.
And tore up his contract.
Yeah. Well, at first tell us from everything. He attacks a wrestler called Umino when he's got a mask on. He was in the crowd. So tell us what happens after.
Well, Umino just showed how stupid he was because here's a guy in the crowd with a mask, and Umino walks up to him, I guess to say hello or see who he was, and he actually, Jungle Boy, beats the crap out of him and then pulls the mask off. Then he throws Umino back into the ring and beats him up some more, then reaches in his pocket, and there was no words to this other than the commentators talking in Japanese. Do you speak Japanese, James?
If you've got no follow-up questions, yes.
Well, anyway, then he reached out his contract and they zeroed in on AEW and he just ripped that contract up, which is kind of an apparent, reflection on his relationship with AEW. He tore up his contract, so apparently he's not with them anymore. And then the rest of it went on with Umino laying on the mat and Perry leaving and the commentators talking. And it was actually a pretty long segment. I don't know what they were really shooting at here, but I guess they made it known that Perry, Jungle Boy, is with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Who's Jungle Boy's father? What's his name? Luke Perry?
Luke Perry, yeah, 90210 fame.
And he just died like a year ago, right?
It was a few years ago now, actually, I think.
Really?
How time flies, yeah. A few years
well,
ago.
It probably was. It probably was. You're right.
Right, I'm going to have to Google this one now. Luke Perry died in 2019.
Wow. 5 years ago. How time flies.
Was he in Django Unchained? I know he was in a cowboy film, and I can't remember which one it was, like one of his last ones. Anyway, do you think this... I mean, Jack Perry's still with AEW because he's not been fired, and AEW has a working relationship with New Japan, but it's just sort of a on-screen FU to advance the story of Jack being, you know, I'm independent, I hate AEW, rebel.
A renegade.
A renegade.
Yeah, that's what he is.
He also wears an armband that says Scapegoat on it, which yet again is another reference to the CM Punk battle at all.
I kind of like that. Because always remember that Perry wants to be a heel, and all great heels are always victims. They are all teaming up against me, but yet the fans, or you're taking their side, you're believing what they're saying, but really they're just using me as the scapegoat. All good heels are always victims. Believe me, in the movies and everything else, it's not their fault the way they act and what they do. It's because they're fighting back against the system who is gamed to beat them, which is not a bad philosophy, really.
It was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood I was thinking of. That was Luke Perry's final role. I knew Django Unchained wasn't right, but he wasn't.
Once upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio.
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember Luke Perry in that.
He is in it briefly, and he's called Wayne Maunder in it, and I know he's in it, and I can't remember what. I thought it was a cowboy thing, but maybe not. Maybe I'm getting confused. What was he? I don't know.
What was he? A second? Hey, I love that movie though. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
It took me a couple of watches to actually really enjoy it.
Oh, it's great.
But it is good.
I like when he took Brad Pitt took the dope at the end, and I forgot what it was. And he's
like peyote or something, yeah.
Yeah, and the guy had the gun on him. He went, "Wow, man!" And thought they were playing. And he pointed his finger back, and he's laughing. That was good. I really liked that one.
Yeah, another film recommendation for you. Film recommendations, UK sitcoms. I mean, we're just like we're just all about media, the wrestling.
We're all over the place. All right.
Next one is, and you referenced this earlier, Dana Brooke, recently released from WWE, has now gone to TNA and debuted a new character called Ash by Elegance. So, you watched her debut. It was at TNA's pay-per-view Hard to Kill the weekend just gone. What did you make of it?
I don't get it. I don't. It's a takeoff on the Storm girl in AEW. What's her first name?
Toni.
Toni Storm. And nobody can beat Toni Storm. I don't care what they do. And I don't know whose idea Toni Storm is using, maybe hers. It's a brand new idea. They can do anything with it. It's shot in black and white. It's shot like it's shot back in the 20s, which has a really good look to it. And her accent leans right into it. But it looks like it's a takeoff that they're copying Toni Storm. But I don't know how. What's her name? Ash by Elegance?
Yeah.
Is that it?
It almost sounds like it should be Elegance by Ash, because it sounds like a perfume.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. Why I didn't really think that deep into it. But Ash by Elegance, it should be Elegance by Ash, like you said. Why isn't her name Elegance?
Like, something other by Dior. Or something like that.
Hey, that's my daughter's name, Dior. Her name is Amanda Dior.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
Because I saw the perfume one time, and before she was born, of course. And I said, let's name her Dior. And that's her name.
Well, I mean, it could have been Old Spice or Dupe.
It could have been,
yeah. Terrible.
Could have been. What else could it have been? Old Spice and what? Name something else.
I think Old Spice. I said Dupe.
But I don't get that. I guess she's going to wrestle. But what is she? She's a model or what? I don't get it.
Maybe it's Toni Storm, but when Toni Storm goes into the talkies period in the 30s.
Maybe. No, I don't know. But I don't fault TNA or Dana Brooke for trying to emulate the style of Toni, because what do they say about flattery?
It's the sincerest compliment. No, hang on. I messed up a saying last time. What were you talking about the unicorns when you meant the Rubicon last week?
Oh, yeah. I didn't mean Rubicon. I thought about that later. I went, unicorn? What the hell am I talking about?
Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. That's the one.
Hey, folks, when I said that last week, I was just coming off of my fentanyl high. So I was taking right before I did the podcast. Yeah, but let's see where it goes. I think it is a form of flattery for Toni Storm. So, and she is a good looking girl. She's a beautiful woman. Actually, both of them are. So, what if they wanted Toni Storm over there at TNA? Anyway, go ahead.
I mean, it'd be too similar. But, we've barely seen. Who knows? The character will go in a different direction, maybe. Next one on the agenda is Nic Nemeth. Takes many bookings on the Indies in Japan and TNA. So, I think there was speculation that Dolph Ziggler, who knows what he was going to do after WWE had fired him. Dolph had settled Nic Nemeth down.
Wrestle.
Well, that was the thing. I mean, would he? He's a multi-millionaire.
You don't get out of this business. You just don't get out. Years ago, I think I told you a story before we went on air. It's not how you get in, it's how you get out, because you don't ever get out. You either need the money or you don't. So if you don't, now you can pick and choose what dates you want to take, or, I would like to go, then I'd like to be on that show, and I'd like to, or go just to be around it.
Now,
wrestling is a blood infection. It gets in your blood, and there's no way to cure it because it's just there. I mean, I'm out of the business actively, but I'm not out of the business because now I'm doing this with you, talking about it. And I have talked to people, and there are fans who are addicted to wrestling. Anything wrestling related, they're going to take their time to either watch it or read it or pay attention to it. Or it wouldn't do as well on TV as it does. I really can't explain the allure of pro wrestling. It is what it is. And sometimes you're watching it. And this is years ago. People thought, that's all fake. But yet, they could not. It became a family tradition, actually, to watch wrestling on Saturday afternoons or Saturday night, and the whole family would gather around the TV to watch it. Because it was one of the reasons that TV took off. Because it was cheap, didn't take a lot to produce it. You could do a lot with it in just a little studio. And I remember pictures back in, I don't know, when did TV come out? Early 50s, mid 50s or something like that?
No, it depends on the country. I mean,
okay.
I think TV in America probably came out in 48, maybe.
Okay. They used to be pictures of people in the cold. You could see snow on the ground. They were standing outside a department store. The store was closed, but the TV was on, and they were showing wrestling. And it would show 10 or 12 or 15 people watching the show outside in the cold, which told me that was a show that people liked. And they get, that's not real. That's not real. Hell, that went on forever. Not real. But yet, they did sellouts. And they do sellouts today, too. So, and I've said this, you can't kill wrestling. You can't kill it. I mean, I used to make a comment.
You tried for 50 years.
I did try for 50 years to kill it deader than hell and still can't do it. It's almost has everlasting life. You just, when you think, well, we're done, and all of a sudden you do something, now here come the crowds back. And you said, damn it, I'm trying to kill it. Don't you see what I'm doing? Anyway, continue onward.
See, you just set them up for me and I'd pass it back to you and then straight out the park, man. Sticking with it. Well, that's what I was going to say when you're describing wrestling just in your blood and you can't cure it. I was thinking like herpes, in a sense.
Now, only you would think that.
I was thinking that, in fairness.
Okay, now, which leads to the next question. Have you ever had herpes?
No. And if I did, I would never admit it on a podcast publicly.
Okay.
Would you?
Oh, I would admit it.
No, fair enough then.
My life, listen, if you want to look at my life, you're looking at it right here. I have nothing to hide other than that burglary back in Des Moines about 20 years ago.
No, that's fair enough then. It's past the statute of limitations anyway. We'll stick with Dolph Ziggler very briefly. I mean, you basically said it. It's like he must be a millionaire. He was getting paid well over $1 million a year for years and years and years. He's got to be set for life for now. But now he's, 43 or something like that. And he's booked
43. Hell, the son that started wrestling at the end of the Vietnam War.
Yeah, he's
got to be like 72.
He's been around.
He seems like he's been around forever.
Mm-hmm. Well, I thought, when was he hired? 2005? Or he was on the main roster in 2005. So he's, for nearly 20 years, solid. So he'll be set for life, but he's booked against Matt Cardona in GCW, made an appearance in New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom 18. He's also making appearances for TNA. Do you think, is it going to be the same as Matt Riddle? Because he's basically appearing in, aside from TNA, all the same places. But do you think...
No, he won't be the same as... I think he's got a little sense about him.
Is it a retirement tour, or is he just sort of like a bucket list thing, or will he just never leave?
He's addicted. He likes wrestling. He's a comedian too, you know that.
Yep.
And I've never heard his spiel, but you ever heard him?
No.
I think he's pretty good. And what's his brother's name?
Ryan Nemeth, I think.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with him. But he is a great talent. The only thing I would critique on Mr. Nemeth is he sells great, but he oversells from the beginning.
Okay.
You hit him, and he goes down like a car hit him. So I think if he would just pull back on that a little bit and effectively sell more after they've done more to him. Of course, I never told him this. I mean, this is his deal. You got to be careful what you tell guys, because they will take that wrong sometimes and say, what the hell does he know? Which is actually a bona fide reaction, to tell you the truth. But I thought his work was excellent. Very good. And he does a pretty decent interview too. And he's a good looking guy.
We shall move on. And this
not
is
not as good looking as you and me, but he's at the end of the line a little bit.
Yeah, that went without saying. I mean, when you said that, I filled in the blanks. I was like, that's fine.
Yeah,
I understand exactly what you're getting at. Next, we're going to be talking about NXT. And people, I've heard a couple of times, are saying, what's going on with NXT? Because there's an awful lot, a spate, if you like that word, of...
An awful lot of what?
Well, I didn't quite finish the sentence. A spate of injuries, all ACL injuries.
Yes.
So ligaments.
Spate. I've never used that word.
Well, there you go. A spate of injuries, all ACL. So the most recent one is NXT's Cora Jade. She will be out around 9 months, which is roughly how long it takes to fully heal and then be able to do physical stuff after an ACL tear. Poor timing, of course, because she's only just returned to NXT after being absent since around July time. Now, Jade's injury will once again raise questions regarding the safety of the training WWE provides at its Performance Center. Now, Jade is the latest one to be taken out with a torn ACL. Amari Miller, Ariana Grace, Nikita Lyons, and Yulisa Leon have all suffered ACL tears as of recent as part of WWE NXT. And also, this doesn't include Charlotte Flair, who just tore her ACL as well. And it's a 9-month recovery. As you know, I tore my ACL in summer of 2022, so I know the entire recovery rate and period. Right? So, I think the main question is:
Does it hurt?
Did
it hurt?
Oh God, yeah, it was horrible.
Really?
Yeah. We'll talk about the ACL injury in a second, but is there such a thing? And it seems to be of overtraining. Do you think there's too much? Is there too much overtraining or too much cardio? Because how much? Here's another question for you. How much cardio do you need to be a professional wrestler, in your opinion?
Well, you need it because you're going to go. One night you might go 2 minutes, but the next night they might say, hey, can you give us 30? Now, when the promoter or the booker or whoever's in charge or whoever puts the show together, when they ask for 30 minutes, that's actually a tribute to the talent. Because they're not going to ask for 30 minutes unless they think you can pull 30 minutes. And it's not just pulling 30 minutes physically. It's pulling 30 minutes to keep the people interested. It's telling a story for 30 minutes that you can keep the fans invested in that match. So, as far as the training, you don't see girls with those big, bulky knee braces on, do you?
Well, you do now.
Well, you're probably going to have to. But it could be just a spate of bad luck.
I suggest that's very unlikely because it's a severe injury. I mean, until, some 20 years ago or whatever, this was a career-ending injury for advances in surgery, maybe 30 years, I don't know. But
they say it hurts.
It's awful.
And you are laid up. Yeah. So say you get an ACL tear, can you still walk on it?
Now, that actually depends. I couldn't. There's some, rugby players or really huge people, really muscly legs can. And a lot of people, I couldn't hear because my head was bouncing off the road at the same time, so I wasn't paying attention. But you can hear a very audible pop of the snapping of the ligament.
Oh, I wouldn't like that at all.
No, it was terrible pain. I mean, I did some other stuff as well, but it was awful.
So, but I think NXT, excuse me. I think NXT has kind of looked into their training regimen and I think they probably had the same idea. Are we training these girls too hard? Are we doing too much with where they're landing on their knees or what? But I think they probably investigating this and see if they can come up with an idea or a conclusion on what they need to do better or different.
The reason why I know you didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you. The reason why it takes 9 months is because you can actually repair the ligament, and then swelling has to go down. You have to be able to start moving your leg again. Then you slowly start training up again. But the way my surgeon told me, Dr. Neil Jane at Wilms Hospital, who did mine, he told me that essentially it's a bell curve of recovery and strength. So as soon as a ligament is repaired, it's very strong, and then it slowly gets weaker over the weeks until it's weakest at 3 months, and then it comes back up again to about the 9 to 12 month period where it becomes strong enough that you can do heavy.
Wait a minute, you what tears? You say it gets weaker. What gets weaker?
The repaired ACL.
ACL gets weaker.
Yeah.
Then it gets stronger.
Yes. So
I never heard that before in my life.
I'd never heard of it either. So that is why you really need
Who
to wait.
who told you that, or where did you read that?
No, my surgeon told me.
Well, I think he just. What's his name?
It was Dr. Neil Jane or Mr. Neil Jane.
Neil. Is he related to you? No.
What, Jane?
Oh, you're James. Okay. I don't think he knows what he's talking about. I'll tell him to. And you tell him if he doesn't like it, give him my number and have him call me.
I'll do very
We'll
much
have
that.
a transatlantic discussion. And I will threaten to go over there and just, hey, we could have a surgery mania. Hey, we could.
What's the main event?
Oh, no, it's just a knee surgery. Him against me.
What, who does knee surgery quicker?
Yes, or better.
Or better.
But that would take time. That would take time.
No, you'd have
but
to
who
read up
does
on
it
a little bit.
Who does it fast? Well, all I do is go in there, tape the knee up. I said, all right, you ready to go?
Well, do you know how they repaired mine? I mean, I did some other stuff, but you know how they repaired mine was they drilled. So there's no hinge on the knee, which sounds stupid for me to say that because I assumed that the bones were connected by bone. They're not. It's all muscle and sinew and that kind of thing. So anyway, to replace the ACL, I know you love medical stuff. I had there's 3 different things you can do. You can do synthetic, you can do cadaver. So basically, they take out a dead person.
I wouldn't want that at all.
No, you don't want a dead person's ligament.
Wait a minute, you can take an ACL from a dead person?
You can take a lot of things from a dead person, like for bone, ligaments, eye, and do replacements. Yeah.
Well, they're not dead. It's right before they die.
No, shortly afterwards.
The heart comes out before they die, and then they die. Really, when the heart comes out.
Well, when the heart stops beating, and the doctor looks at his watch and says, "Time of death, so and so," and then that's when they're done. But so they take it out then, or they take it out before? They take out after the person's dead, and then they give it to the living person.
Because if they didn't, they would actually be the result of the person dying.
Yeah.
Yes. Before. Yeah. I thought about that.
It's common practice to only harvest organs and ligaments and stuff from dead people.
Recently deceased people.
Recently, you've got to be fresh.
Like within 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
No, I wouldn't say 10 minutes, but you refrigerate them.
Really?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that.
Well, let me tell the fun bit is that I can't remember the bone name, femur and the other one. And they drill through like that. They drilled through my both bones, and then they reattached. I had a synthetic hybrid with organic because most of my ACL still existed, and basically they grafted my existing ACL onto the synthetic ACL, and now my ACL is now held in by 2 screws that are outside the bones that have been drilled through. And I even asked this: if I go into an airport, if the the scanner's really sensitive, that will show up.
Will it?
Yeah. No, apparently it's very rare, but if there's a very sensitive airport scanner, it will.
When I broke my leg, they put a part of titanium in my leg.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that expensive?
In your wooden leg? What's the?
No, I broke my femur.
Oh yeah.
And then they ran a connector that was titanium. That won't break, will it?
No. Have you got a guarantee?
No.
Is it dishwasher safe?
I guess. Yeah. Said I could use it with Joy. So
with what? They said that you could use it with Joy.
Joy. Yeah, the Joy. They have a dishwasher deal called Joy.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But I thought they meant you could use it with happiness.
Yes.
I'm so stupid. All right, ask me another question. Okay,
now this is really the main event of this podcast. Do you know what? It was going to be about TNA because, as I told you beforehand, I had a brain fart of a day. I couldn't think of anything to write. So luckily I've got a backup script about TNA, but we're not going to get to it because the actual main event of this podcast. So, as we were talking about last week, Tony Khan made a series of tweets mostly complaining in nature about Jinder Mahal going against Seth Rollins, and then using that also to promote Hook versus Samoa Joe. Both of them going for their respective.
And let me say so. I do think they did a good job in promoting Hook versus Samoa Joe.
Tony Khan did a really good job of promoting Seth Rollins versus Jinder Mahal.
And he did that too.
Yeah.
What were the ratings?
Raw was going against I don't know what, it was a NFL or college, I don't know, but that got nearly 30 million plus the Emmys, so it was dead in the water anyway.
Hey, the football game did over 28 million people. Yeah. And it was streamed by Peacock, which means if you didn't have the package, you had to pay $5 to see this. So say only 10 million people had it. They sold 19 million subscriptions for $5. That means they made $100 million just streaming it. But I will say this, it was Tampa Bay Bucks. I watched the game. Tampa Bay Bucks versus last year's Super Bowl entrant, Philadelphia Eagles. What a great game. One of the best games I've ever seen. Because they have a quarterback who's kind of has a varied history called Baker Mayfield. Played at Oklahoma. He will speak his mind. But he was throwing passes I thought were just unreal. And I mean right on target. And they blew out Philadelphia. But anyway, okay, so Raw appeared against them. So
yeah, and the Emmys. So one of the most watched.
I don't think the Emmys did that well.
No, well, everyone was watching.
I read they did 4 million people.
Oh, really?
That's not too good.
I don't know what they average.
About 12.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Oh, so a lot of sports fans then tuned out that year. Rightly, well. Sounds like they probably made the right decision. Now, the match itself, Jinder Mahal versus Seth Rollins. There was a lot of complaining on. Well, there wasn't, and then there was after Tony Khan started bringing it up. But the match itself, you watched it after the fact, of course. Give us your critique of what you saw.
Okay, Jinder and Seth.
Yep.
I didn't really watch it. I watched part of it, but it's more standard. Like WWE programming, nothing to me that would make it stand out. Seth won, and Toni did bring up a good point. Why would Jinder Mahal all of a sudden be a contender for Seth's belt? I don't even know what belt he has, whatever it is.
It's like the Raw World title. It's the bronze medal world title.
I don't know why all of a sudden he would be like the top contender for that title and Toni brought it up. He's beaten nobody. He really hadn't even been on TV for like a year. So he brought up, but wrestling fans don't give a crap about that. They really don't. Only the sticklers, the purists care about the one-loss record. Now let's compare that to the Hook and the Samoa Joe.
Let's, just before you talk about the match, I also watched the beginning of Dynamite. I watched as much as I could before we recorded today. And they actually did a good job at the beginning.
Wait a minute. As much as you could. I mean, it was like, it was a chore for you to watch.
No, it wasn't as much as I could tolerate. It was as much as the time would allow me. But I watched the first 10 minutes, and the show did a very good job of hyping up the match for the main event. Mm-hmm. And also, I watched the first half of Christian Cage and Dustin Rhodes. And do you know what? The commentators also did a really good job of, it was almost like an audition episode where they were saying exactly the motivations of Christian and Luchasaurus, who's now Killswitch, and Nick Wayne. And it's almost like they were directing it to first-time viewers, which they should be doing.
They should be doing. Every time, the announcer should have it in their head. If you're not familiar with this and kind of go over it, the older fans know it. Younger fans don't. I mean, you don't have to go into detail and bore people with it, but kind of say it's like their first episode. And that is an improvement, because they used to talk to you just like, well, if you don't know, we're not telling you.
Yeah,
which is a bad attitude.
Yeah, if I didn't know what was going on, I think I would have been relatively caught up, like within the first 2 minutes of the match, which is actually very, very good. Now, having said that, I know you watched all of Samoa Joe versus Hook, and you have a lot to say about it, so go ahead.
Well, I saw Hook come down the ramp. And he's a good-looking kid, kind of thin, but he's getting there. But he didn't really play to the crowd at all. He's like in his own world. And I think that's kind of his gimmick. He can get by with that. And then he got in the ring, and he's going up for this title. And he didn't look nervous or act nervous or anything or apprehensive. And he turns his back. He turns his back always to his opponent, which I thought was a bad signal, because I think out of respect, he should have stood there and going back and forth a little bit, like he is worried about Joe. This is the most important time of his career up to now. And if you're not nervous, something's wrong with you. But I think he should have faced the corner. And it's a little thing, I know that. But I think people are used to him just turning his back, and he looks back over his shoulder, at his opponents in the other one. But I think in this one, he should have stayed straight ahead, because I think he's looking for every type of advantage that he can muster. Now, Joe comes out. Joe looks like he's been there before, and he has. And I think the general consensus of every fan in there is that Joe is going to win. How, they don't know. So the match starts, and it starts with little Hook tearing into Samoa Joe. And that worked for a while. And then when Samoa Joe cut him off, it became obvious to me. Let me go back to when they were walking the ring. Hook came into the ring with, some chairs and a little bit. But when Joe came in, he had a lot more positive reaction than he did negative reaction, which told me, well, this is going to be kind of a different type match. Because I think the crowd liked Joe more than they liked Hook. And the match, once they started having the match, that Hook, he took some fantastic bumps. I mean, that Joe beat the living crap out of him, put him through a table, did this. They did one bump over the top rope or through the ropes or something, and looked like it killed him. And then it ended up, and it didn't go that long. No wonder it could have been ad-free. It only went about 10 minutes, didn't it? Total?
Yeah, about that, yeah.
Yeah, so no wonder it was ad-free. And you got to say, well, Toni had the right idea, that he can say, we're not going to, show any ads doing this. Well, it's only 10 minutes. It probably wasn't going to show any anyway. And then he gets him in the Cobra clutch and chokes him out. And the only thing I would have done differently is when he choked him out and they raised Joe's hand. And I think Joe should have looked at him like, you little punk. Go at him again, start choking him again. The referee can't get him off. I think Taz, he got up one time. I think Taz said, I can't do this. Which is natural for a father to run in or to interfere in an activity that his son could get hurt in. And all he's got to do is go in there and say, hey, Joe, and push him back. That's my son. Hey, lighten up. And then start checking on his son, and Joe stands back. And then he puts it up to the same thing on Taz. Both of them are laying down. Now he's beating the hell out of both of them and then sends you Page Kid. And if people want to have some blows between then, you can do that. But it ends up now he's killed 2 people. And I think that helps Hook, and it helps Joe, and it helps Page. So now I would have next week, I would have little Hook. He's not there. And I would have him taken out on a gurney too, by the way. I mean, if you're going to do it, do it. And, Taz is not too, Taz, I don't think you can take him out on a gurney. You can't get 2 out there, but one's enough. And I think that leaves, and that's really, really good for out clips, for your social media, for your video packages when you bring them back. That's a really, really good look. And Joe said he's going to do it. And it was a great opportunity for Hook. Then you can leave them off 2 or 3 weeks. Then all of a sudden they spring back into action. Now Hook comes back. And Taz said, hey, he's going to have to learn. He's going to have to learn the killer instinct or he's not going to make it in this business. And little Hook did a pretty good interview. It's a believable interview on the streets of the bad streets.
USA.
Of Charleston, South Carolina. That's the bad streets. And it was raining and he had a good look and it wasn't a bad interview. So, and I can't knock it. I think a few things in there could have been improved. The match was good. Joe is really, really good in that ring because he doesn't have to do that much because he's a power wrestler. And he's never had a good body. You look at him, you say, little fat bastard. But he's tough. And I don't think anybody doubts, because I don't think you got many people in that crowd that, I could beat him. They're not saying that. They have respect for him. And so anyway, I would on a scale from 1 to 10, I'll give it an 8, a 7. Let me give it a 7, a strong 7. And it was good. And that was all due to Joe.
Now, you mentioned I think this needs harping on a tiny bit more. When Samoa Joe gave Hook that slam through the table, and Hook seemed to take it entirely on the back of his neck. Even I went, that could not have felt good.
And your point is?
I just wanted to see your face when I said it.
It was actually, what's that called? It has a name.
Well, it used to be a Sambo suplex, because from the Russian Sambo martial art, I guess, like a head and arm thing, and then a turn. It used to be that. I don't know what it's called now.
It was a vicious looking move, and he took it, and I think the announcers, you brought them up a little earlier. I think they handled this show well. I think they handled it. It was Taz and who on commentary?
There may have been 3. Taz and the, I always forget his name, the masked guy. What's he called?
Yeah, I don't know what he's called.
And the third guy, I don't know.
Yeah.
So Taz and 2 other people.
Well, I don't like it when they have the 3-man booths. They have had 5-man booths, which is way, way too much. But yeah, I don't really know the mask guy's name right off the bat, but I think they did a pretty good job. But see, a lot of times, this is what I hate. A match is going on and they're talking constantly, like Raw and SmackDown do. It's just constant. Slow down, guys. Slow down and let what the guy has done, like that bump through the table. I mean, they had to put that over. But, they don't need to say, oh, wow, what a bump. And hell, down at Joe's auto barn, you can get. But all in all, they did a good job. I think this is one of their better shows. So maybe Toni is listening a little bit.
He's called Excalibur, by the way. I just couldn't think of his name.
Excalibur.
Yeah. There's one thing that
So where's he from? I've never met him.
Parts unknown. He's called Mark Letzman in real life, and
Mark Letzman, that's him.
Yeah, he's from Detroit.
I don't know him.
That's the spirit. There's one thing, and this isn't Samoa Joe or Hook. This is a conceptual thing that is happening with wrestling now, and I think it's outdated.
Yeah,
is the three-arm drop kind of thing, because we've had 30 years plus now of mainstream mixed martial arts, and here's what happens if you are choked out, and it does happen. If you're choked out before you can tap, the referee wiggles your arm for a second, realizes that you're unconscious, and stops the match. But for that match, it was really clear that Hook was dead, but the referee let him in the choke for another 10 seconds while he wiggled the arm. And for me, I don't know if that's a bit outdated for these days. What do you think?
I don't think so.
No?
Because we're doing the three-arm drop for a reaction. And he'd have caught it on 3. Now he's coming back. That's why we do that. I don't think you can really even put MMA or UFC, that style, into that, because if it drops 3 times, you're done. That's our rule. That's the wrestling's rule. It's been that way forever. Now, it may be in mixed martial arts, you drop it 1 time, the guy's done. We can do that. But they do that because the guy's really getting choked out. If you don't break it soon, he may have brain damage, or Dane damage is what I call it. But I think that still works. I really do. So, but now that he's out, now if they did that part that I suggested, which it was okay the way it was done. I'm just saying, I think this may have added a little more to it with a little more background. So Joe has places to go and people to go with. He's going to go with Paige sometime anyway. So we'll see.
We have one more bit of news. Hulk Hogan rescues teenagers. Did you see this?
I read it.
Yeah.
Read it in the paper. Written by Hulk Hogan.
HH is how he signs it these days. So you have to decode it. This is from TMZ Sports. Hulk Hogan sloughed off, which is an interesting use of that word. His WWE.
Wait, that is not sloughed.
Was it
sloughed? Sloughed.
Yeah, how do you pronounce that? Sloughed?
Sloughed.
I've never heard that word in my life.
I've never heard sloughed either.
Yeah. There's a town called Slough, not too far from me. Anyway, or Slough, as it might originally been called.
It could be sloughed. Sloughed off. Okay, go ahead.
So he is sloughed/sloughed off his WWE heel persona. I mean, despite the fact that he's a babyface at the moment, when he's around. In real life this weekend, jumping to the rescue of a woman who got into a horrific car accident, and TMZ Sports has the pics. Sources, and let me tell you, TMZ loves quoting sources. With a direct knowledge, tells the legendary wrestler, his wife Sky Daly and a friend of theirs were cruising along a highway Sunday evening in Tampa, Florida, when they witnessed a bad wreck play out right in front of them. Hulk and co., our sources explain, pulled over immediately, with HH and his pal Jake rushing over to render aid to the driver, a woman whom we're told was rattled. Since they were first on the scene, we're told that Hulk and Jake actually helped get her out of the car. Our sources say Jake popped the woman's airbag with some tools that I heard a pen, like a Bic biro or something like that. Hulk had on hand, and they both unbuckled her seatbelts and assisted her in safely leaving the vehicle. We're told paramedics eventually arrived on the scene, and Hulk and his crew looked on. In the end, our sources say the woman appeared to be okay, and Hulk Hogan was happy to help.
That's getting God in your life. Getting Christianity.
Didn't he get Scientology in his life recently?
Well, he just got saved here about a month ago, him and his wife, when they take you down and dip you down in the water and pull you back up and do it again. And, which is fine. I mean, he can do what he wants to do. But I think anybody who saw that accident would stop. I would stop and see what kind of help I could render. And hopefully I could help somebody. That's just being human. That's your humanity in you coming out. And I think most people would stop. especially if the traffic stopped and you have to stop. I mean, you can't go any farther. Well, hell, I don't have nothing else to do. I think I'll just go up here and help this woman and get out of the car before it catches on fire. And it's actually, it was good for Hulk that he could do that. And I don't know who his friend Jake is, but I wonder, is that Jake from State Farm?
Jake Roberts.
No, they have a guy, State Farm commercial here, and it's Jake from State Farm. You don't get it, do you?
No,
you don't
absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
They do commercials with the Jake from State Farm. But no, it was, I think Hulk is human, and he saw somebody that needed help, and he went up there to see what he could do. And my hat's off to him. I don't have a hat on, but I'll just do this.
Just permanently off to him.
Yeah, yes, it is.
I disagree. So, most people are awful people and will not do anything to help anyone. It's almost that herd mentality where they see something bad going on and no one will intervene, and it happens time and time again.
Not down south.
No. Here, people are cowards. They will not intervene
because you're a bunch of Brits.
No, they'll just sit there and just record it.
You started the war.
Which war?
We had to come World War II.
No,
you and Churchill.
England.
You and Churchill started it.
England and France said to Germany, if you invade Poland, then by goodness me, you're in for it. And then we declared war, and then 9 months of nothing.
What was Poland to them?
To them, a neighbor that they decided they wanted.
But that's not a neighbor to England. They're way down. They're neighbor to Germany and France.
Mm-hmm.
See? It's like you live in this house here, and all of a sudden this house here and this house here, they jump on the other house farther away. So
we couldn't let them get too big. That's the problem. Then they've got their own empire for Lebensraum, 1,000, for living space, and 1,000
Yeah, but see,
years.
But England had its own natural defense. They're an island.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to come across water to get there. So they had their own moat, big moat, already built.
It's so interesting.
That's the way I look at it. But I'm saying down south in the U.S., I think people are very sociable, and they're very helpful, especially if you need help. And I think and Hulk grew up in Florida, so he has that Southern mentality. Regardless of what I say about him and other people say about him, I think he has a heart, and he helped that woman, and I'm glad he did. What if he hadn't helped that woman and he sat there and the car caught on fire?
It's all right. Beefcake was right behind him. He would have stopped and then done it.
Now, I think that was uncalled for. I think you owe Mr. Beefcake an apology right now.
I'll do it next week.
Tell him you're sorry.
I'll do it next week.
Okay. All right.
You do, but seriously, I mean, like, people are more sociable here than they are down south. But,
Hey, wait a minute. Was that a reflection on my accent?
No, it was a reflection on the Southern English accent of the knees up Mother Brown kind of thing. And but the thing is, we're more sociable here. But the fact is that there's a supermarket really close to me, and last year, a gang of teenage, 4 of them, gang of teenagers with helmets on, surrounded a bike, like a push bike, and were trying to chop the chain off to rob it. And there were about 50 people watching. And yet one of them was using a chain as a weapon. And I was like, who cares? It's 50 of you versus 4. Someone get in and kick them in. And no one, I wasn't there at the time. I heard about it the next day. All people
What if you were there and you just went out there and just beat the shit out of all 4 of them, took the chain from them, choked one of them out and left them, and then stole their bikes?
Then I would have been arrested, and it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
No, people are not going to interfere. See,
it's pathetic. Why not?
They don't know who owns this bike. I don't blame them. I would have sat back and said, "Well, not my bike," unless they were beating someone up. I don't have humanity for a bike. I don't have feelings for a bike. A person, a little bit. I could probably get with that.
No,
but
it happens.
What I could do now, at my age, I go out there and get the shit beat out of me. trying to help them. And instead of beating that one person up they don't like, hell, they just take it and throw it at me and just say, "Hey, you bad bastard," and just kick the hell out of me.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, that herd mentality where everyone, like huge groups of people, will stand there and watch an injustice unfold in front of them.
Well,
and
they
won't
will
intervene.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm just trying to say, a bicycle is, you don't have feelings for a bicycle.
Yeah.
You have feelings for another human being.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, it's easy to say you do this and the other, but I've involved myself in these kinds of things before.
We could put this up for a little debate. You could put a question on your website and see what people would do.
No,
No.
People will say they will do things and then they won't. It's very easy to say it, but it's especially, like, if I'll give you an example. I'm sure someone I thought very recently was having a hard time. I didn't know if they were like bad health or something on the streets, God, there was one not too long ago, where a woman was stuck on the end of the road, and I spent 40 minutes with her making sure she got to the shops to buy whatever, and then got back home again, just because I couldn't live with myself thinking, well, what if she... Because she was she was suffering from dementia, I think, or like early stages, and she was just constantly confused.
God bless you for helping that woman.
Yeah, so many people walked past her and didn't help, and it's like, why? How important is what you're doing? Your food getting cold, so what? Help.
Are you religious?
No.
Not me either. But I do like to help people.
It's the golden rule.
Especially if I can get something out of them later.
Yeah,
I might need them.
Yeah. So I'm sure she's only buying cigarettes as well. So just give us 2 and we'll call it quits.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
we'll be done. But anyway, that's why I think they let the bike issue, the chain with a. Did you see that?
No, I saw it on social media later that day, because everyone's got like a local.
Social media is doing more harm than good. It really is. If you want to see any kind of dirt, trash, sickening stuff, go to social media. That's why X, it used to be Twitter, it's changed now. You see blood and guts and everything now there. It's almost a horror show. I can't wait to get on it every morning.
And if you want to see more of that, you follow Dirty D Mantell.
Yeah. With 2 L's at gmail.com.
I think we're going to call it there. We've had a spirited discussion.
Where else can you get good conversation like this?
Oh, loads of podcasts. Loads of podcasts you can get it.
Not like this one, though.
No, that's true.
Not like this. And this is tailor-made for a specific audience, and we're talking directly to them. But there are some podcasts. Do you listen to podcasts?
No, not really. I make them.
I don't either. Guys sit down and they're talking all this, it doesn't interest me. If I went down the road and I could only find a podcast to listen to, I just turn it all off. Screw it. I listen to music, maybe, but a lot of times I used to make long trips by myself, and I could just talk to myself. And that's a form of mental insanity.
Well, you guaranteed a good conversation that way anyway.
I did have good conversations. I really did. So, but
do you know what I listen to? Do you know what I listen to? Is I'm trying to listen to audio books more. So the one I'm on at the moment is a history of the monarchy in England. Just because if you just either going to listen to music or what, I've listened to lots of music, but I'm at least trying to learn some stuff, just any stuff. I'll learn any history, something's good for a quiz. And the only thing I've learned is that everyone's wife in the 11th century was called Elfie Foo.
Everybody's wife.
That was a name in the 11th century England.
For a wife.
Was Elfie Foo.
For a wife.
Yeah. And then in the 12th century, everyone became Matilda for some reason. No. That was actually a person's name. That's not the name, like a term. Just, that was actually a name, like Ethelreds and Egberts and stuff like that. They had the worst names in the 11th century.
In England.
Oh, yeah.
What about Germany?
I don't know. I've not got that audio book yet.
Do you speak any German?
I did 5 years of German in school.
So you can speak some.
No, not a bit.
What about French?
Never did French.
Really?
No. We did
What about
5
Latin?
years.
What about Latin?
My missus can actually speak a bit of Latin. She went to a private school, and she actually knows a little bit of Latin, and she can speak a bit of French as well.
She go to Catholic school?
No, I don't think it was Catholic anyway. But no, she actually studied a bit of Latin because she was forced to. So, hey, that's what paying for your education will get you.
Stay off social media because you'll start believing everything is a conspiracy. Hell, they even got me believing it's a conspiracy. The more they lay it out, I'm saying, well, wait a minute. That is true. That is true. That is true. So,
no, but it's
anyway.
It's the Jerry Jarrett thing. A, B, and C is true, and then when you lead to D, you're into the work. That's a good note. I think the moral of the story of this podcast is go outside and touch some grass. Get off social media.
Or eat some.
Yeah, eat some grass or smoke some. You might have a vision of something more positive. Right, for that, we're going to go now. Thank you very much for watching. You will see us again on Tuesday where we're going to be answering your questions that you send to us at questionsfordutch@gmail.com. But until then, Dutch, we the people.